I'm standing in a courtroom that smells like polished wood and lies. My hands are shaking, but not because I'm afraid of them anymore. I'm afraid of my own voice. 6 months ago, I was locked in a dark warehouse, counting footsteps, praying my father was still alive. Now, cameras are flashing. Lawyers are talking. And the people who planned my disappearance are sitting just meters away from me, pretending they don't know me. Stella won't look at me. Michael keeps tapping his fingers like this is just another business meeting. They think I'm still the secret. They think I'm dead. My father squeezes my hand. I feel it's the same hand that held mine when I was a child, the same hand I dreamed of reaching when I thought I would die alone in the dark. The judge calls my name. My heart pounds. If I speak, everything changes. If I speak, their lies collapse. If I speak, the nightmares become real to them. I remember the chains, the rain on the warehouse roof. Raymond's laughter, the nights I whispered prayers into concrete walls, begging God not to let my father mourn a grave that didn't exist. I look up. Stella finally meets my eyes. And for the first time, she's afraid. I'm alive, I say. The room explodes, gasps, shouting, cameras flashing like lightning. My father breaks down beside me. Michael's face drains of color. Stella whispers, "This isn't possible." But it is. Because faith kept me breathing, love brought me home, and now, truth is here to collect its debt. This isn't just a story about kidnapping. It's about betrayal hiding in the family, about survival when hope is all you have, and about the moment the lost child stands up and destroys the lie that buried her. Would you have the courage to speak, if your silence kept monsters free? Dawn crept over Lagos, washing the city in pale gold. Daddy and I were already awake, reviewing the recordings from the previous night. Every word Stella and Michael had spoken confirmed our worst fears and gave us the ammunition we needed. "They are sloppy," Daddy muttered, scrolling through the footage. "Their arrogance is their weakness." I shivered, remembering the months of captivity, the dark room, the locked door, the endless waiting. Faith had guided me then, patience would guide us now. We began coordinating with David, Daddy's trusted attorney, who had quietly arranged for legal observers and law enforcement support to be on standby. Daddy called me closer, pointing at the screen. "Look." Michael scheduled a meeting with that offshore associate. "Stella will meet him in the old warehouse by the Marina bus stop. It's our chance." My heart pounded. Danger lurked with every step, but we had to act. If we moved too soon, they could disappear, taking their secrets, and me with them. That night, Daddy and I followed Stella's movements from the flat. Every step, every gesture, every whispered instruction was captured. The plan was unfolding perfectly. But just as hope surged, a shadow fell across the street outside our flat. A figure lingered in the darkness, watching. Faith had kept us alive, but fear was never far. Patience and vigilance can turn even the most cunning enemies into prisoners of their own mistakes. But when you think you're safe, will you recognize the new threats hiding in plain sight? Night had swallowed the Marina bus stop in shadows, the water glinting like broken glass under the dim lamps. Daddy and I watched Stella and Michael approach the warehouse, unaware of the camera streaming live to David and a small team of trusted operatives. "They think they are untouchable," Daddy murmured, eyes narrowed. "Let's make sure they see the consequences." I gripped his hand, my mind flashing to the months I had spent locked in that tiny, dark room. Every sound, every creak had taught me vigilance. Faith had carried me then, it would guide me now. Inside the warehouse, Stella handed over documents to an unknown associate. Michael checked his phone repeatedly, oblivious to the hidden microphones. Every word, every instruction was recorded, their plans exposed in real time. Then, just as they relaxed, a sound froze them. The warehouse door, locked from the outside, banged shut. Panic swept over them as hidden speakers played a recording of their own voices, echoing in the vast space. Michael cursed. Stella's face was drained of color. The arrogance, the confidence, the belief that nothing could touch them, it all crumbled. From our vantage point, Daddy and I watched, hearts racing. The first strike had landed, but the battle was far from over. Their desperation would make them dangerous, unpredictable. Justice often requires strategy, patience, and courage. When you confront the darkness in your life, will you face it with faith, or let fear take control? The city of Lagos slept under heavy, humid nights, but for Daddy and me, there was no rest. Stella and Michael had realized they'd been exposed. Their arrogance had turned into anger, and anger is always dangerous. David's call crackled through the speakerphone. They are moving fast. We've got to anticipate their next move. I hugged the recorder to my chest, thinking of those long months locked in darkness. Faith had guided me before, and now it would guide us again. Suddenly, a black SUV idled across the street outside our safe flat. Shadows moved inside the vehicle. My stomach tightened. Daddy's eyes darkened, and he whispered, "They're trying to scare us. Don't react." Minutes later, a series of calls revealed their plan. Stella had bribed a security official to monitor Daddy's movements. Michael was tracking us digitally. They wanted to corner us, intimidate us, force us out. But we had learned from the past. Every step we took was calculated, every move rehearsed. The cameras captured every street, every corner, every vehicle approaching our location. As midnight arrived, a single thought echoed between us. They thought they could break our spirit, but they had underestimated faith, patience, and strategy. The first strike had shaken them, but the retaliation had begun, and the city of Lagos would witness a war of cunning, courage, and survival. When facing enemies who thrive on fear and intimidation, will you retreat, or will you let faith and strategy guide your courage? Lagos buzzed below our safe flat, unaware of the war unfolding in silence above its streets. Daddy and I sat hunched over monitors, tracing every movement of Stella and Michael. Their fury was predictable, but their cunning, dangerous. David's voice was calm but firm over the phone. "They'll try to lure you out. Don't take the bait." I felt my pulse quicken. I remembered the nights locked away, the fear, the hunger, the uncertainty. Faith had been my anchor then, now it was our weapon. Suddenly, a text arrived on a burner phone. It was Stella, pretending innocence. "Daddy, I'm worried. Can we talk? Just us." Daddy frowned, gripping my hand. Trap. Classic psychological bait. They want us exposed, maybe even captured. David nodded. We use it against them. Feed them what they want, but on our terms. Over the next 48 hours, we executed the deception. Daddy continued the facade of weakness at home, allowing Stella and Michael to believe their plan was working. Meanwhile, I stayed hidden in David's secure apartment, monitoring every call, every message, every minor slip. Then, one night, a critical error, Michael, in his greed and impatience, revealed a secret location tied to their illegal operations. The information was enough to corner them. Faith and vigilance had guided us this far, but the real test was about to begin. Patience and subtlety can turn a trap against its maker. But when the enemy's greed blinds them, will you recognize the opening before it's too late? The sun had barely risen over Lagos, casting pale light over the streets, but inside David's secure apartment, the tension was thick as smoke. Daddy and I watched Stella and Michael move through their day, unaware we had every step mapped, every word recorded. They are reckless now, Daddy whispered. The first strike shook them, the retaliation scared them. But greed will make them careless. I felt a chill as I remembered the dark room where I'd spent months. The smell of damp wood, the locked door, the silence, it was all etched into me. But now, the tables had turned. Faith had guided me, and now strategy completed the circle. David's phone buzzed. Tonight's the night. They'll act on their own assumptions. We just wait. As evening fell, surveillance cameras captured Stella and Michael discussing plans in hushed tones, believing Daddy was alone and weak at home. They plotted to secure what they thought was the remaining estate, not knowing the final evidence was already in our hands. Daddy's hands trembled, but not from fear. From focus. "This ends tonight," he said. The final trap wasn't violence. It was exposure. Every illegal transaction, every word against us, every hint of their conspiracy, recorded, documented, ready to shatter their world. The city slept, oblivious, as the net slowly closed. Their arrogance had blinded them. And soon, they would pay. Justice often comes not with rage, but with patience, planning, and faith. When the moment is right, will you act, or let opportunity slip? The courtroom was packed, Lagos media cameras glaring like the sun, recording every twitch, every lie. Stella and Michael sat at the plaintiff's table, faces painted with false grief, unaware their world was about to collapse. Daddy and I entered, side by side, hearts pounding, hands gripping each other tightly. I could feel the pulse of justice in every step. David followed behind, carrying the evidence that would finally bring the truth to light. The judge began, scanning the documents. Every contract, every phone call, every surveillance clip was laid bare. Stella's lips twitched, Michael's fingers drummed nervously on the table. "This," David said, voice steady, "is proof of kidnapping, conspiracy, and attempted murder. John Harrison is alive. Isabella Harrison, his daughter, was held captive and is now safely with her father." Gasps filled the room. Reporters shouted, cameras flashed. Stella's mask cracked. This is impossible," she stammered, voice trembling with rage. Michael tried to speak, but his arrogance had abandoned him, he could only stare, frozen. I stepped forward, gripping Daddy's hand, feeling the power of truth coursing through me. Faith had guided us through months of fear, darkness, and deceit, and now it was complete. For the first time in 6 months, I felt safe. For the first time, I felt free. Lies can thrive only in silence. When courage and faith speak, the truth cannot be buried. Who will you trust to reveal your truth when the world doubts you? The press frenzy died down, but Lagos streets still buzzed with whispers of our story. Daddy and I returned home, every corner of our mansion heavy with memories of betrayal. Stella and Michael were behind bars, yet the scars they left were far from healed. We walked through the halls in silence. I touched the walls Daddy had once paced in grief, now transformed into spaces of cautious hope. Each room whispered reminders of the past, the stolen months, the fear, the nights I had prayed in the dark. Daddy knelt beside me, voice low. "It's not over yet, my child. Healing will take time. We must rebuild not just our home, but ourselves." I nodded, feeling the weight of 6 months of captivity and deception finally pressing down into reality. Every day, I would remember, but every day I would also reclaim my life. David visited often, helping us navigate the legal aftermath, ensuring that Stella and Michael could never hurt us again. Slowly, we began to restore normalcy, small meals together, evenings in the garden, laughter that felt foreign but welcome. Faith had carried me through the darkness. Daddy's love had kept me alive. And now, together, we were learning that even after the deepest betrayal, trust and courage could rebuild a family. Survival is only the beginning. True healing comes when you reclaim your life and your heart. How will you transform pain into strength? Morning sunlight spilled through the tall windows of our Lagos mansion, dust dancing in golden streams. Daddy and I sat in the garden, the city hum distant, a fragile calm settling over us. For the first time, the fear that had shadowed every step was fading. I traced my fingers over the small Bible Daddy had placed on the table, a gift from David after our courtroom victory. "Faith," he whispered, carried us through when nothing else could. We began the slow work of restoring the house and ourselves. Bedrooms once tainted by memories of loss were cleaned, filled with new warmth. The small church in our yard became a sanctuary, a place to gather strength, pray, and remind ourselves that life could still be good. Neighbors, friends, and family who had doubted or turned away slowly returned. Their presence was tentative, but it reminded us that the world was not only dangerous and deceitful. Some good still remained. At night, I would sit beside Daddy, recalling the dark months, the hidden farmhouse, the locked doors. And yet, the memories no longer held me prisoner. They reminded me of survival, courage, and the bond between a father and daughter that no evil could break. Faith, love, and patience had restored what greed and malice tried to destroy. Restoration begins when you choose to believe in goodness again. Even after darkness, will you let hope rebuild your life? The weeks turned into months, yet Daddy and I remained vigilant. Stella and Michael were behind bars, but the city whispered of their influence, their lies still lingering like shadows. Every visitor, every phone call, every news headline reminded us the world could be cruel, and we had to stay sharp. David suggested tighter security, new routines. Daddy agreed. I learned to move quietly through the house, my senses honed from months of fear. The memories of the hidden farmhouse, the locked doors, the guards' footsteps, the darkness, never left me. But now, they fueled caution, not terror. One evening, as the Lagos skyline glowed orange with sunset, Daddy placed his hand on mine. We've survived the worst, my child. But the true test is living with the aftermath. Living without letting hate consume us. I nodded, feeling the weight of our victory, yet knowing the scars were real. We visited the small church in our yard, lighting candles for protection, for peace, for the courage that had brought us back together. For the first time, I smiled without fear, laughed without restraint, and trusted my Father to guard me not only from harm but from despair. Faith had carried us here, but now, strength and wisdom would guide the next steps. Justice may punish the guilty, but true reckoning comes when you rebuild your life stronger than before. How will you rise after betrayal? The first light of dawn crept over Lagos, painting the city in shades of gold and rose. Daddy and I stood together at the edge of our yard, the small church behind us, its doors open to a new chapter of our lives. The mansion felt lighter now, freed from the shadows of betrayal, the walls echoing only laughter and quiet conversations. I held Daddy's hand, feeling the steady warmth of his presence. We made it, he whispered. Through the darkest nights, through lies, through loss, we survived. I glanced at the broken remnants of the past, the farmhouse that had held me, the courtroom battles, the threats, but they were behind us. Our faith, courage, and love had forged a bond no greed or evil could shatter. We knelt in the small church, lighting candles not only for protection but for gratitude. For life. For each other. For the miracle of being reunited against all odds. And I finally let myself cry, not from fear, not from pain, but from relief and love, pure and overwhelming. Daddy lifted me into his arms, and for the first time in months, I felt truly safe. Outside, Lagos woke to a new day, unaware of the darkness that had passed and the courage that had conquered it. Life may test you with betrayal, fear, and loss, but love, faith, and courage can bring you back. Will you hold on long enough to see your own new dawn? Life may test you with betrayal, fear, and unimaginable loss, but resilience, faith, and love can guide you through the darkest moments. True courage is not the absence of fear, but the strength to rise despite it. Healing takes patience, trust, and the willingness to rebuild what was broken. Miracles often arrive when hope is held tightly and actions are guided by love. After witnessing the power of endurance and faith, will you choose to believe in your own capacity to overcome and rebuild? The end. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. Hit the notification bell to stay updated. And check out our playlist for more. Your support means everything to us.